Hey folks, after the last video on Matthias, I thought I'd have another look at some Scandinavian disappearances, and as a result of this comment, I was informed of Marie Saether Ostbo. Marie, a Norwegian citizen from Stavanger, where she lived with her mother, Anna, her father, Atle, and her older sister, Helen. Marie was described by her father as a beautiful person who cared deeply about other people. She was 21 years old at the time of her disappearance, and she was pursuing higher education in political science at Toulouse University in France. At the time, she was about to travel overseas with a tour group. She had a lot of experience travelling and had been to various places around the world, so it's not as if this was her first excursion abroad. This time would be different though, and Marie would come to disappear without a trace in a place called Sedgefield in South Africa on Wednesday the 18th of April 2018. Marie arrived in Cape Town on or shortly before the 15th of April. In the days leading up to the 18th, Marie and the group visited locations such as Table Mountain National Park to the north and Boulders Beach to the south, before making their way towards Sedgefield, where they would arrive at 5:30 p.m. Sedgefield itself is a coastal town located in the Garden Route municipality, which as far as I can tell is a prominent tourist area known for its rather welcoming and relaxed nature, alongside its gorgeous views. It's also a place of relatively low crime. Marie is very well spoken about, and she was a highly intelligent person that was aware of her surroundings. Her father, Atle, has publicly stated that his daughter was raised in close proximity to the ocean and lakes in Norway. Given that the family was constantly around the water, enjoying boating and other such things, gave her a great understanding of the dangers that the ocean can pose. Marie had recently purchased a new camera at the time that she was going to use to document her trip to South Africa. Initial media reports suggested that she had taken this camera down to the beach to photograph an incoming storm, which was something that was used to try to support the hypothesis of an accident in the water. I suppose the suggestion was that Marie had been tunnel visioned into taking pictures while losing sight of how dangerous the situation was becoming around her because of the storm. However, her camera was discovered some days later among her other items at the lodge, meaning that parts of the press had pushed that idea while having no evidence that was the case. Sedgefield, specifically the Myoli Beach area, is where this incident took place. On the evening of Wednesday, the 18th of April 2018, the weather was in an active state of decline as a storm was rolling through the coast. People who were present at that time reported that the winds were becoming increasingly strong and harsh. As said, earlier that day before the storm hit, Marie's tour group had arrived in Sedgefield at around 5:30 p.m. They were staying at the Afravai Backpackers, a lodge situated in very close proximity to the beach. Following their arrival and checking in, the group had some downtime and were largely engaging in recreational activities and planned to eat dinner together at around 7 p.m. A photograph taken at 6:10 captured Marie relaxing on the balcony of the Pili Pili Beach Bar, overlooking the beach trail while charging her iPhone. Some minutes later, she wasn't walking with, but followed after a couple from her tour group who decided to go and take a walk along the Myoli Beach. To get to the beach, it is just a simple walk down a short flight of stairs from the restaurant, and then across a small stretch of parking area. While walking, the deteriorating weather made the couple feel uncomfortable as the winds were strong enough to push the sand around, and they just didn't want to be there. Realising that there was a storm well on its way, the couple decided to end the beach walk early after only a few minutes, and they retreated back to the safety and shelter of either the restaurant or the lodge. It's not really made clear. Marie, however, made the decision to remain on the beach alone. The same couple heading back away from the beach observed Marie. She was sitting alone on the sand, facing towards the ocean, and the couple was some distance now behind her. As they ascended the dune structure, moving away from the shoreline, they turned and captured a photograph of the landscape, which also captured Marie sitting and looking out into the sea. Due to the distance and the sheer noise of the wind and ocean, they did not communicate with her, and she would have been unable to hear them even if they tried. By 10 minutes past 7, members of the tour group, while gathering for dinner, realised that Marie was not present. Attempts were made to call her phone, but for some reason, she just wasn't answering. While it's not clear precisely what was happening in the moments when the group discovered that she was missing, it seems that an initial, hasty search was undertaken by her peers in the immediate vicinity of the lodge and the beach entry path, even if it was only a quick look just to see where she was. But of course, there was no trace of Marie. I'm not sure how thorough that search was, because it will have been getting dark at the time and the storm was now closing in. Recognising the gravity of the situation and the inherent dangers of the coastal environment at night, especially in said conditions, the tour leader went to an emergency number board and placed a distress call to the National Sea Rescue Institute, or the NSRI, and the search officially began at 7:30 p.m. This was a very fast response, all things considered, and the authorities were there somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes of Marie being reported missing. Statements were taken from people at the restaurant, and the NSRI began searching the immediate ocean along the beach, while the community police began to scour the beach itself. They had search dogs on scene quite literally right away then and there, as I understand it, but they were not able to follow a scent anywhere. Marie had disappeared incredibly quickly and was nowhere to be found. Despite the restaurant being so close and there being the group's presence there, nobody had reported hearing any shouts or signs of distress or anything like that. Though it is important to highlight just how noisy it would have been at the time due to the strong winds. The response to Marie's disappearance was the most intense and concentrated search operation to have occurred in Sedgefield. The initial response, as you might imagine, was defined by extreme urgency because it was now getting dark, and search leaders had to face the reality that it was about to be pitch black during a storm. This was not a safe or easy search. Visibility was poor, the sand was being blown all over the place, getting into people's eyes, and the sea was becoming extremely rough. Quad bikes and other off-road vehicles were deployed that night to traverse the shoreline from Myoli Beach extended right up to Platt Bank. Concurrently, members of the community police executed a sweeping search from the river mouth around to Myoli, ascending the dune structures and extending into Claude Urban Drive. Everyone involved here was said to be baffled by what had just taken place. It is important to stress that whatever happened to Marie must have been very sudden to have disappeared in this manner. You have a situation in which the search effort right then and there could find no evidence of anything. The search dogs couldn't even indicate a direction in which they should start to travel, and weirdly, nobody had even seen anything. So, the search expanded and people were deployed all over the place looking for her. I've seen it said that from the restaurant, the beach was entirely visible, and while I haven't been able to find a good view from the higher levels, based on this angle, I'm not sure if that was true, as the dunes are in the way. Operating under the hypothesis that the severe storm might have caused Marie to lose her spatial bearings and seek immediate shelter, search teams conducted line searches of empty properties, active construction sites and bodies of water. Given the kind of close proximity that she was in to the restaurant, I'm not sure exactly how she would have gotten lost in this manner, but I suppose it was a new area after all, and for what it's worth, it would have been incredibly loud, and maybe as a result, disorienting. Searchers themselves noted that while on the beach, they could barely hear one another over the howling wind. They also initiated door-to-door residential inquiries. By this time, the search was severely hampered by absolute darkness, wind and rain, which severely degraded both sight and search dog scent tracking, which wasn't having any luck to begin with. The searchers only halted their efforts at 2 AM on the 19th of April before getting back to it at 6:30 in the morning. During the downtime, the South African Police Service assumed primary jurisdiction and command over the efforts. Further preparation was being made during the downtime, as well as increasing the resources available to the search. Of course, being missing for around 12 hours, and bizarrely at that too, was not a good sign. The searchers were said to be confused that they hadn't found anything at all. That following morning, more specialised units were deployed, which allowed for an expansion of both the land and water searches at the same time. More highly trained search dog teams were brought in alongside divers. They also brought in Western Cape Government Health Emergency Medical Services, Wilderness Search and Rescue Ground Teams, the Sedgefield Fire Department, and an EMS SkyMed rescue helicopter providing aerial support. A local motorised paraglider even added his services, scouring the coastline for 4 days in the hopes to find an answer as to what exactly had happened. When an intense and extensive localised search effort like this doesn't find a trace, it is obviously not a good sign, and the probability that the person is even in the area anymore plummets. Acknowledging these realities, on the 24th of April, the police spokesman stated that the search would be scaled down due to restrained resources and an absolute absence of new actionable leads. Or in other words, it appeared as though somehow Marie had been thoroughly removed from the area, and it was not possible to ascertain in what manner that happened or where she might have gone. Now, while the vast deployment of personnel, dogs and machinery did fail to find Marie, it didn't come up completely empty-handed and did manage to uncover a highly contentious puzzling clue. Just past midnight on the 19th of April, searchers made a discovery on the beach, though I'm not sure of the precise location. They found an iPhone, a pair of white shoes and a white cap lying in the sand. Through speaking with members of the tour group, law enforcement learned that the phone and shoes did belong to Marie. Her belongings were said to be located approximately 100 metres away from the backpackers' lodge, and crucially was situated above the high water mark of the tide, meaning that for many it didn't insinuate that Marie had entered the water. Her family also did not think that was the case, and I can certainly see why. Marie's father heavily criticised the police for initially assuming that she'd gone in based on the recovered items alone, and he reiterated that she would not have left the area or cancelled plans for dinner to go off and do her own thing without telling anyone. Furthermore, many media reports inaccurately stated that these items were neatly placed, but they were actually dispersed approximately 2 metres apart from one another, strewn around. It's actually important to bring that up, because from a forensic point of view, neatly stacked clothing or personal items can correlate with an intentional, planned entry into a body of water. Dispersed items could suggest something else. Perhaps this could have been as a result of a panic or some kind of a struggle. Or I suppose the scattering could have been as a result of the very high velocity winds at the time. To me, the dispersion of the items does seem to favour a chaotic rather than an intentional placement by Marie. One of the reasons that I say this is because, as far as I can ascertain, there is nothing reported that insinuates that Marie was suffering from any mental health challenges. As I usually mention, such things are commonly reported on in the press when it is the case, but I can see no suggestion of that here. Additionally, the iPhone was still powered on and fully functional when discovered, suggesting that it had not been submerged in the corrosive salt water. Alongside her shoes and phone, searchers discovered the white cap. However, after further discussions with the tour group and analysis of prior footage of Marie, it was confirmed that this cap did not belong to her, though the press did incorrectly report that it did at the time. It is currently not understood whether this cap was discarded by a potential perpetrator who harboured ill intentions, or if it was inadvertently left behind by an opportunistic thief where things went wrong, or if the cap was already on the beach and had been blown into the clothing cluster by the powerful winds. Nonetheless, it represents a very strange coincidence that could be indicative of foul play. As you can imagine in an incident like this, such was the case with Nicola Bulley too here in the UK. Social media and the press in general became quite hectic. In this instance, as I understand it, many false reports were made and they spread wildly. This included wrongful sightings of Marie in various locations. There were also rumours that a body had washed ashore on another beach entirely, which must have been absolutely horrible for those that knew Marie to hear, when they had no factual basis whatsoever. And from another perspective, these falsities also take away finite police resources to go and investigate the latest rumour, which is infuriating to think about really, especially when it's just people making things up. That obviously doesn't apply to those who genuinely believe that they saw her but were mistaken. It is important to highlight that physical evidence was largely absent here, and there was no concrete evidence of any one scenario taking place. CCTV footage covering the pathways leading towards Myoli Beach revealed that two unidentified men were either near or engaged in a conversation with Marie prior to her disappearance at some point. There was nothing to suggest that they had done any wrongdoing though. In addition, I couldn't find anything concrete to suggest that the police had managed to identify and question them, though I would imagine that it is almost guaranteed that they would have managed to do that eventually. Additionally, a dog walker had also been spotted in the area, but again there was no evidence of any wrongdoing. Things got somewhat derailed sometime after investigating these individuals. In early 2019, a highly volatile local individual, Sean Kelly, came to the forefront. On the 2nd of February 2019, just less than 10 months after Marie disappeared, something terrible again would happen in the generally quiet and peaceful town of Sedgefield. A 67-year-old local resident named Noreen Hampson unfortunately passed away in a very serious incident right outside of her home as a direct result of a senseless attack by Sean. Sean Kelly's bail hearing commenced on the 13th of February 2019, and the proceedings devolved into a bizarre spectacle. Kelly elected to represent himself and then used the judicial platform to launch an extensive, paranoid tirade against the town of Sedgefield, characterising it as a place full of evil people. During a defensive monologue, Kelly unexpectedly talked about Marie. Completely unprompted by the prosecution or the magistrate, he boldly declared to the court that the disappearance of Marie had not been perpetrated by one person but the entire community. Following this, he offered no further clarification regarding his claims about Marie's fate. Sean himself probably not being the most reliable person in the world, so I'd imagine everything he had to say about Marie was just nonsense. The Norwegian authorities, known as the Kripos, initiated themselves formally into the disappearance. Kripos confirmed that Norwegian investigative teams travelled to South Africa to collaborate directly with the local police. To further internationalise the search, Marie's case was formally uploaded to the Interpol Missing Persons database. Since there is a total lack of hard evidence to physically prove a crime or something else, various hypotheses have been put forward. The initial thought suggested some kind of accident in the water. The Myoli Beach can present some hazards in stormy conditions, and a nearby estuary had broken through the sand a few days before, which could cause someone to lose their footing. The area is also known for extreme rip currents. However, Marie's father strongly refuted this, noting that she respected the ocean and would never have voluntarily gone in right before dinner, and certainly not as a storm was approaching. Furthermore, if the sea surged suddenly and unpredictably, her phone should have remained on her or been swept away, not found scattered in dry sand above the high water mark. The second hypothesis relates to opportunistic foul play. The fact that the items were dispersed the way that they were could support the idea of a struggle taking place. If an offender approached Marie at that time, the high winds and the ocean would have masked all sound. While difficult to move her away without being seen, the beach paths do lead directly to Claude Urban Avenue, meaning that it is a possibility that this theorised perpetrator could have gotten her to a vehicle. It's about 100 metres from the waterline to the street, though again, moving a struggling person that distance would have been very risky, and it seems that there is a strong likelihood that someone would have seen something. The presence of the unidentified white cap certainly seems to bolster the idea that another person may have been present at the scene though. The third hypothesis sees accusations being thrown at Sean Kelly. There is no concrete evidence to suggest that he had ever been anywhere near Marie, but people have spoken about the idea of a disorganised, troubled local offender encountering her. Again though, the primary complication with attributing the disappearance to a potential crime is the distinct lack of any biological evidence. Also, given what happened to Noreen, I wonder if this was purely driven by media speculation, though of course I am not sure, but I couldn't find anything to suggest that he was there. There was an update in 2023 that was quite revealing. It seems that the authorities did have a male suspect in mind that they believed may have had something to do with Marie's disappearance, meaning that the primary hypothesis of Marie being taken by the water may have strongly shifted at some point towards a foul play scenario, but it was kept quiet as there was just not enough evidence to prove it. To my knowledge, it seems that suspicion had been kept quiet until early 2023. The suspect, who was not named, passed away in a traffic accident, ending in a lead that went nowhere. I am not sure if it was one of the people captured on CCTV at the time when Marie disappeared, and that information is just not available. I then came across this, reported on in 2024, where a Norwegian politician wrote an article about the situation. He said that the case had been closed in South Africa, but there were legal inquiries into how the investigation could be prolonged. He mentioned that Marie's relatives received that breakthrough information in 2023 about the suspect, but not enough had been done to investigate. Even though the suspect passed away, it certainly does seem that more could have been done, and to just close the investigation is an odd decision to have made. You'd think that this suspect's neighbours and family could have been asked for statements or something. Or perhaps they did do that and they closed the investigation afterwards, I'm just not sure. The Creepoos also stated that they had stopped receiving information from South Africa police. I really hope that's not an effort to just sweep the whole thing under the rug and move on, but the cynical side of me is questioning that. Marie's father was reportedly justifiably upset about this. He said, "We are very disappointed that they give up when they have come so far, and there is so much missing before we can clarify the case." Ultimately, what happened to Marie is just not definitively known at this time. It seems that as of now, it is going to take someone that does know something, if they're out there, to speak up. Should there be any information that can be shared, I have left a link in the description to the South African Police Missing Persons Notice page detailing Marie, where contact information is available. Additionally, there is also a link to where she is listed with Interpol, again where contact information is available. With that brings us to the end of this. Please do remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for the channel, and also to like the video and hype it if you can. I'd be very grateful. Be safe all. Peace.